Yes.
Plus 1 over x plus 4 equals 1 over 4.
Okay. I thought we did this last time, but let's do it again. I could be wrong. It doesn't
I
matter.
thought I did something similar.
Okay, that's fine. So what type of equation is this? Very good. So I have two restrictions.
X plus 0, x plus 4, x plus 4 should be plus 0, right?
Correct? So x does not equal?
Plus
Very good. -4. I move everything to one side. I find the least common denominator, which is?
X plus 4. Oh, least
X plus 4,
How many different factors we see in the denominator?
3,
All three must be in the least common denominator. Please dictate.
x plus 4,
Very good. Very good. All different factors have to be in the least common denominator. No one can factor this, no one can factor this, no one can factor this other than 2 squared, but that's okay. So all different factors must be in the least common denominator. Let's see what happens if we consider the just x plus 4.
no,
Let's make the mistake for a second. Don't forget what you want to say. Let's make the mistake and consider that x plus 4 is the least common denominator. You will understand immediately why it doesn't work. Let's do this together. X times what is this? I don't have an answer. Then I know that this is not the LCD. I only have an answer here. X plus 4 times what is x plus 4 is 1. But here I don't have an answer again. 4 times what is this? I have no answer. So then I know x plus 4 cannot be the least common denominator. Now let's see if we have answers in all three cases. X times what is this? Well, it's 4x plus 16. X plus 4 times what is this? Clearly 4x. And 4 times what is this? Is x squared plus 4x. Since I found answers, and I got answers to all these three questions, I know that this is the correct least common denominator. Forgive me for interrupting. What did you want to say?
it's the same thing. I just wanted to say x plus 4, 4 and x.
That's fine.
Plus 4.
Yes, I knew exactly what you were going to say, but normally we write them as 4x. It's not a mistake to write x times x plus 4 times 4. It's the same thing. Correct. So how do we know that this, how do we know this procedure? From here, bless you. So for example, if we have 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/5, what is the LCD here? It's exactly the same procedure. Identical procedure. It's just that it looks differently because it has x and x plus 4. So 2, 3, and 5 have nothing in common. So the least common denominator must be 30. 2 times what is 30? 15. 3 times what is 30? 10. 5 times what is 30? 6. That's how I know that 30 is the least common denominator. Because I have answers to all those questions. The same thing here. X and x plus 4 and 4 have nothing in common. Identical with 3, 2, 3, and 5. Have nothing in common. So that's why the least common denominator must have all different factors in there. Is this clear? Is this clear? Yes? Okay. So then x times what is this? It's 4x plus 16. X plus 4 times what is this? It's 4x. 4 times what is this? Is x squared plus 4x. Is everyone okay? Okay, so now can anyone dictate the numerator? They're all multiplied by 1, so this is 4x plus 16 plus 4x minus x squared minus 4x. Do we agree?
Yes.
So 1 is distributed here, positive 1 distributed here, and negative 1 distributed here. Everyone? Is this okay? Yes? Okay, now I have to combine like terms, and I see negative x squared plus 4x plus 16 divided by 4x, x plus 4 equals 0 over 1. This is a simple reminder to myself. Hey, you changed that whole thing into a what? Proportion. Remember to arrange everything in descending order. Now we are ready to do what? What are we going to do to this? Yes, that's why it was my reminder here. So this will be negative x squared plus 4x plus 16. This times 1 equals what?
0.
Exactly. What type of equation is this? I always ask myself these questions every step of the way. It is quadratic. And furthermore, it has 0 on one side. Perfect. I know 4 methods. Not really. Only 2 I would think of applying here. But I do not ever solve a quadratic equation with a negative leading coefficient. No one can ever force me to. So if I want to simplify this equation, and I will, what should I do first? Multiply both sides by -1 or divide both sides by -1. It doesn't matter. So I have x squared minus 4x minus 16 equals 0. And at this point, I'm asking myself, what do I want? What method would I want to apply out of those 4? Not completing the square, not taking square roots because I can't. It's not ready for that. So I'm only thinking of factoring or quadratic formula. If factoring takes more than 20 seconds, forget it. Use the quadratic formula. But it shouldn't take more than 20 seconds on this one. Any suggestions on how to factor this? Unless, so negative, okay, so let's, is this, did we copy it? No, we don't have, it doesn't have to be factorable. Maybe it's not factorable. I thought, by first look, I thought it was. But let me make sure that we copied everything correctly. Did we have 1 over x?
It was 1 over x.
Plus 1 over x plus 4 equals 1 over 4.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay, we don't have to get real solutions. Who knows? This one? This one?
Yeah.
-1 times x, negative x squared, -1 times 4x,
Oh.
-1 times 16, -1 times 0.
Well, but where it come from?
I refuse to solve a quadratic equation with a negative leading coefficient. You can if you want to. I personally refuse to. And no one can force me to. Because this is way more difficult than this. And it's the same, it's going to have the same solutions. Multiplying both sides of any equation by -1 will not change the solutions, but it will make my life easier. It's part of that cleaning it up, simplifying it before I do anything to it. If you don't want to, you can go ahead and do that. We will both get the same answers, I guarantee. Okay, but I just want to make sure that I go back and check everything. So 4x, x plus 4, this was indeed 4x, yes, this was indeed 4x, this was indeed x squared, okay, I'm just checking. That's correct, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. We simplified these two, we are still left with a 4x, everything appears to be fine. Okay, perfect. So it's not factorable. My only chance is to use the quadratic formula, right? That's all we had. I don't see any errors. So this is x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac 4 times 16 divided by 2 times a. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac 4 times 1 times negative 16. I changed the sign into plus not to have too many parentheses. Is this okay? Good. So again here, because it's easier, I'm going to factor out 16. So from 16 plus 4 times 16, I'm going to say this is 16, 1 plus 4. Factor out 16. 16 times 1 and 16 times 4. Why I do that? Because it's easier to take the square root from 16 times 5. I cannot simplify this in any other way. So I will say x equals 4 plus or minus. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 5 is the square root of 5.
Why do you have 1 plus 4?
Otherwise, you will say 48 plus 16, and then you have to go back and simplify it. And I don't want to do that. I see that these two terms have 16 in common. So I factor out 16. 16 times 1 is 16. Plus 16 times 4 is 4 times 16. Just to simplify it faster. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. But then you're going to get a big number and you're not going to know how to simplify it. And my math lab requires you to simplify it. So I see that 16 is a common factor. I pull it out. 1 plus 4 is 5. So then I know that this is 16 times 5. So I can take the square root from 16 to get 4, and the square root of 5, which is the square root of 5.
So how do you do it to get a bigger number to simplify it like the same way as my lab?
But you have to simplify it on paper. You cannot do this in my math lab. You have to do it on paper. So you're saying if you get a big number here, okay, then you're going to have a little bit more work to do. So 16 plus 4 times 16 is 80. Then you will take, so this will be 4 plus or minus the square root of 80 divided by 2. And you will have to go to prime factorization of 80. You have 2 times 40. And then you have 2 times 20. And then you have 2 times 10. And then you have 2 times 5. And this is your 16 times 5. But it's more work. That's all I'm saying. And you get the same thing. 16 times 5. So it's good to use the factoring that we know. Because I see these are two terms and they have 16 in common. Otherwise, I'll get to 80 and then I'll get stuck with all this. But it's not a mistake to do this at all. But now we'd like to simplify the solutions.
Another question. What if when you have the square root of 80, then you square the least?
So the square root of 80 is the same with the square root of 16 times 5 because 80 is the same with 16 times 5. Then you split this.
Yeah. That's
Yes,
what I'm
and
saying.
that's how you get, yes, and that's how you get 4 the square root of 5. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, clear?
Another
We haven't finished it, just 1 second, so let me finish this one. So then we split it in two fractions. You cannot simplify, remember. 4 over 2 is 2, plus or minus 4 over 2 will be 2 the square root of 5. And here are the solutions. They are not 0 or negative 4, and they should work. Yes, please, any question?
That when you did
Yes,
when you did this part,
yes.
where is it? So when you did that part and you got 1 plus 4 in the parentheses, you did the square root of 4 and 16.
No, so what I have under the square root is 16 plus 4 the square root of 16. And I copied it here.
Right.
Just to show what I'm doing. These are two terms. They are added. They have a common factor, which is 16. And I'm showing 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 4 is 4 times 16. I'm just showing how I got this.
Okay.
And this becomes 16 and this becomes 5. So now what I have under the square root equals the square root of 16 times the square root of 5. But the square root of 16 is 4. And the square root of 5, no one can simplify. If I don't do this, then I will say 16 plus 4 times 16 is 80.
Okay.
And then I do all this, which is a different way. Perfectly correct way. Good. It was a very good problem. Yes, please.
Is this the only answer for that problem?
No other answer exists.
So you
No
have
one
to-
can find anything else that works.
So what about, am I right to see 2 plus 2 5 and 2 minus 2 5?
But this is a product. When I say 2 the square root of 5, I mean product by the order of operations. I cannot add. I have to multiply first.
No, what I'm saying.
Oh, you want to separate them? Yes, you have to because my math lab asks you. But I don't ask you to do that because you cannot simplify them. So what's the point?
You can do the plus and minus.
Right, but in my math lab, it will ask you to write them with a comma. So you will have to write 2 plus, so the first x is 2 plus 2 to the square root of 5, and the other one is 2 minus 2 to the square root of 5. But there is no need to do this here. I'm not going to ask you to do that.
So in an exam,
But if you
on a
have,
test,
yes, but if you,
can I leave my answer like that?
correct, unless you have 2 plus or minus 2 multiplied by 3, then you cannot,
No, that's wrong.
because these can be simplified. 2 plus 6 will be 8, and 2 minus 6 will be negative 4. Here you have to, but here you don't, because it's just waste of paper and time. But my math lab requests that you,
They
that
have,
you.
they have a plus or minus in my math lab.
However, sometimes they request put them in such and such with a comma. If it says it's okay, then put it in. But if it says put it with a comma, then you have to write this comma, the other one. Good. Very good question. Very good conversation. Awesome. Next thing. Anything else you have for me? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Okay, in that case, let's go back and practice some more. Yes, please. Yes, sorry. Yes, I didn't see you.
So determining whether the function is even, odd, or neither.
Okay. Yes.
F of x
Yes.
equals x to the 6th plus 3x.
Perfect. Perfect example. When we are asked to show symmetry, in other words, when the function is odd or even, what do I have to determine first? What did we determine in the past when we showed symmetry? What was the starting point? What did we calculate first? Yes, Joseph?
First thing I will do here, I might be wrong, but I knew as a common factor on the right side.
I cannot do that. We are talking about symmetry. So what did we do in the past when we determined or calculated or were asked to show whether the function is symmetric or not, odd, even, or none of the above? What did we determine? No? I think you're on the right track. Just if we go back to the notes, you'll have the right answer. We determined what? We calculated or determined what? The difference quotient is only asking us to find and simplify the difference quotient, which is the rate of change of the function between 2 points. But here we are given a function. We're asked, is this function symmetric? So what did we calculate? No? What are the two relationships? Let's do that. For odd, what is the equation? What has to happen for odd? For a function to be odd, and what has to happen for a function to be even? A function is odd only if, very good, equals, awesome, perfect. And a function is even when, awesome. So then look at this and tell me, oh, it's very clear. You need to calculate first. What do you think? Exactly. That's what I need to calculate. If I don't determine that, I will not be able to conclude anything. That's the starting point. So I have to find f of negative x. Can anyone dictate f of negative x? Yes? Everything to the 6, very good, plus 3. 3, and then Very good. I just didn't hear it. Forgive me if you said it and I didn't hear it. It's my fault. Okay, negative x to the 6th power. Let's simplify that. What do we get? Awesome. 3 times negative x. How much is that? Awesome. So we found this expression. Found. We found this and we found this. Now we have to answer yes to only one of the 3 questions. So I have 3 questions for myself. Does this equal the original function? If you say yes, it's even. Does this equal the opposite of the original function? If you say yes, it's odd, or none of the above. Correct. Correct. So obviously this is not the original function. So the first one is a no for sure. Now the question is this the same with the opposite? No, because if I change the signs and multiply both sides here by -1, this will become negative f of x. This will become negative x to the 6th, and this will become negative 3x. So these will not be the same. So I'll say indeed, this function is not symmetric. It's not, its graph will not be symmetric with respect to the y-axis, and it will not be symmetric with respect to the origin. Very good. Good question. Thank you. Anything else? Yes. Joe?
Can you move it? What is it? F of x? Oh, I'm saying f of minus x. X equals to minus the f of x.
Yes.
When it's even, it's f of minus x. F of x.
We looked some time ago at the graphs, and if a function is symmetric with respect to the origin, its graph f of negative x must equal negative f of x. We looked at that definition a long time ago. I mean, I can show it to you again, but I'd like to finish, and I can show it to you. Yes, that's the property. If a function is symmetric with respect to the origin, we can show that f of negative x must equal negative f of x. If a function is symmetric with respect to the y-axis, we can show at all times that f of negative x equals f of x. And we illustrated the property with 2 different graphs. One for the odd function with x cubed, and the other one with x squared. Say it again.
I am not clear on how you compare the values with the f negative x.
Okay, so do you understand how f of negative x equals this?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's compare these two. Are they the same?
No.
No, so then the function is not even,
Okay.
because they're not the same. F of negative x does not equal f of x. So I cross this out. It's not even. Is that clear?
But you said f of negative x must be equal to negative f.
So we're talking about the second one now, correct?
Oh, okay.
You want to talk about the second one? Is the first one clear? That's what
Yeah.
I'm... Okay, good. So now I need to talk about the second one.
Okay.
Good. So f of negative x is this piece. Now I have to determine negative f of x. How do I determine negative x? F of x, I just multiply both sides by -1. Negative f of x means this equation multiplied both sides by -1. So negative f of x, multiply this by -1, I get negative x to the 6th. Multiply this by -1, I get negative 3x. But negative x to the 6th minus 3x is not this. So f of negative x is this, but negative f of x is negative x to the 6th minus 3x. They're not the same. Let me write it here, maybe it's better. Negative f of x equals negative x to the 6th and minus 3x. Since this does not equal this, the function is not odd. Therefore, we conclude that it's not even, it's not odd, it's not symmetric.
So if one is the same like that one, then we'll conclude that
We don't have to check the other two. Correct. There is only one yes answer. Very good. So if I found that this is yes, then these must be no. If I find that this is yes, I don't have to check the other two.
Okay.
If I found that this is yes, then the other two are no.
So if one is yes, therefore it's symmetrical. It's symmetrical.
Not for this one.
Okay.
If this is yes, it's symmetric with respect to the y-axis. If this is yes, it's with respect to the origin. If it's not symmetric, it's not symmetric. It's a function that is not symmetric at all. Not with respect to the y-axis and not with respect to the origin. Good questions. Anything else? Do we have anything else? Yes. Last question, and then we can, after class, I can answer more because I'd like to I have to finish the material today for test. No, I want to answer. I said one more, and then we can answer more at the end of the class. I have no problem with that.
Okay, it was a word problem.
Okay.
Long story short, the equation is y equals negative 0.01 x squared
Perfect.
plus
Yes.
0.6x plus 6.1.
Perfect. And what do we need to do?
I think it was solve for x, right? Yeah, because you're saying x was, yeah, do the quadratic equation for it.
So you're telling us that we have to solve the equation y equals 0. Perfect. So then I have negative 0.01 x squared plus 0.6x plus 6.1 equals 0. Perfect. I will multiply both sides by negative 1, refusing to solve a quadratic equation with a negative leading coefficient. 0.01 x squared minus 0.6x minus 6.1 equals 0. And the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. This is negative. I'm going to change this. 6.1 divided by 2 times that. I'll put everything in the graphing calculator. Now it depends how they want the answer. They may want the answer.
So solve as integer.
Okay, so let's take a look and see what's happening here. So leftmost point, parentheses for the top, 0.6 plus the square root, in parentheses again, 0.6 squared, and then plus 4 times 0.01 times 6.1, close the parenthesis, go outside, close another parenthesis, and divide by 0.02. 0.02. Let's see what I get. So the answers are not integers. So I don't know. We have to look at the problem. Maybe, are you sure that this is the equation?
Yeah, that's the answer it got, but I don't know.
But maybe you copied the problem incorrectly. Maybe you want to look at it again and.
Yeah, because it gave 2 answers.
Well, we will get 2 answers, but are not integers. Of course, we get 2 answers. It's the quadratic formula, so we have 2 answers.
Oh, okay, all right.
So I go back.
Trying to solve it. I was trying to solve it as a fraction. Maybe that's what it was telling me. Okay, I see it.
So negative 8.85 and 68.85 or 68.86. But look at the equation. Maybe we have an error in copying it.
Yeah, because I was like.
There were 2 solutions or 2 integer solutions, you said.
Two integers. Probably, I don't know exactly how it would work, but yeah, that was the right answer. I just thought because.
Oh, okay. So this is
I didn't know how to do this.
68.86 and x equals negative 8.86. So
yeah, I didn't know how to do the square root. Like I thought you were just supposed to leave it square and then the number underneath was like.
I'm not sure. We have to look.
Yeah, all right.
But is this okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Is there anything else? Anything urgent that you wanted to go back to? Okay. So going back to 2.3, let's look at a couple of problems. We had a problem in which we were given 2 ordered pairs, and we are asked to find the equation of the line. This is all review from previous courses. There is nothing new here for you. And let's just graph a function or equation, let's say 62, on page 267 before we move on. And the equation is 4x plus 6y plus 12 equals 0. Now, I know you would say, I know that this is what type of equation and how many points we need. What type of equation is it? Linear. How many points we need? We can never graph a line with 1 point. Here's why. So if I have this point, how do I graph the line? This, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this? Which one? Exactly. So if we have 2 points, there is no ambiguity. So when we graph a line, we have to find exactly 2 points. You can find more, but there is no need. So always look for the x and y intercept. So let's say I have a line that crosses the x-axis and the y-axis. What is this point called? X-intercept. What is the equation of this line? It's a horizontal line. It cannot have x equals y equals 0. Indeed. Now let's look at the other point. What is this point? Very good. What is the equation of this line then? Very good. So all you have to do, you don't have to solve for y, you don't have to simplify, you don't have to do anything. Do not touch it. It's a waste of time. Always say when x is 0, find the corresponding y, and when y is 0, find the corresponding x. This is the easiest thing to do. So when x is 0, I cover the term, and please give me how much is y.
2.
Careful. 2 times 6 plus 12 is not 0. So we have to move 12 to the other side. It becomes negative, and we have to divide by 6. Negative 2 indeed. So can anyone give us the ordered pair that we just determined? I completely agree. Now y is 0. I covered that term. How much is x?
-3.
Very good. Awesome. What is the ordered pair? I completely agree. Let's graph the function or the equation, the line, and we're done. So I plot 0, comma, -2, which is this point. I plot -3, comma, 0, which is this point. I connect and extend the line. And I will always write somewhere, left, right, up, down, whatever, anywhere you want, 4x plus 6y plus 12 equals 0. So I don't forget what I graphed. So we graph using x and y intercepts. That's the easiest thing to do. There's no need to solve. There is no need to use the slope. The reason why I encourage you not to use the slope is because this is the only equation that you can use the slope to graph. You will never, yes, you will never ever have any other function that uses the slope. Yes, please.
I'm sorry, how exactly did you get -3, -2 there?
When I solve a linear equation, I have to separate the terms. So I moved positive 12 to the other side. It becomes -12, and I divide by 6.
Oh, okay.
When I solve for x, I have to move 12 to the other side and divide by 4.
Okay, yeah.
That's
sorry,
okay.
that makes sense.
So couldn't we just do that without having to draw the graph?
But that was the question. We were given the equation. We were asked to graph. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Graph the line. Yes. We had to find the ordered pairs. And we always find the x and y intercepts. Is that okay, everyone? Sorry about that. I should have mentioned that and also put it in writing. Okay. Let's look at 2 other types of problems. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, but there are 2 more different things. And then we can look at the last section, 2.5. So we're on page 279. 279. Let's start by looking at problem 7. We are given a point 2, comma, -3, and we are told that there is a line perpendicular to y equals 1/5 x plus 6. So let me read the question one more time. Use the given conditions to write an equation for each line in point slope form and slope intercept form. So the line is passing through this point, they say, and it's also perpendicular to the line whose equation is this. Okay, so here's the idea. I'm not graphing the equation or the given equation or the unknown one. I'm just giving you the idea. So we have a line whose equation is unknown. But we do know two things about it. Here's the first one, that it passes through this point. So somewhere along the line, I have this point 2 comma negative 3. This is one piece of information that I took into account. But there is one other piece of information. They say that the line whose equation I need to find is perpendicular to this line. So it forms right angles everywhere, 4 right angles. And this equation is this one, y equals 1/5 x plus 6. So we're asked to find the equation of the red line, knowing that it passes through this point and is perpendicular to this line. Yes, please.
We use slope-intercept form to figure that out.
That was my exact question. Is this the slope? Is this the y-intercept?
No.
No, it's not. Since it's not 0 comma a number, I cannot use the slope-intercept form.
You can't. Okay.
I cannot. So then I have to use y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. I do have the point. The point is 2 comma negative 3. The question is, how do I determine the slope? And if the slope is given to us even maybe directly or indirectly.
It's 1/5 x.
But it would have been 1/5 x if the lines were parallel.
Right. Okay.
If this line were here, then I would have said absolutely true. I would have said yes, plug in 1/5, you're done. But 5 times 1/5 is not negative 1. So you are on the right track. Negative 5. Okay, so let me explain to everyone. So we have the given equation y equals 1/5 x plus 6 to compare to the mx plus b. And obviously we understand, I hope, let me know if there is any problem, that the slope of the second line is 1/5. Do you agree?
Yes.
By comparison, would you agree? Is the slope 1/5 for this line? This is the number in front of x. Is the slope 1/5?
Yes.
Agreed? Okay. So if the slope of this line is indeed 1/5, I don't have enough room, 1/5, then what is the slope of the red line? And last time we refreshed our memory on the fact that m1 must equal negative 1 over m2. If m2 is 1/5, the answer must be negative 5. So therefore, our equation is this. Y plus 3 equals negative 5x minus 2. So the slope was given to us, but it was given to us indirectly by simply telling us that the unknown line is perpendicular to this line, identifying the slope as being 1/5, then we knew automatically, as you already told me, that the slope of the red line must be negative 5. Because there is a relationship that we know between the slopes of two perpendicular lines. So if one of them is 1/5, the other one must be negative 5. Any questions before we finish this up? Okay, so then I put all the information in. So then I have negative 5x plus 10, and then I have to subtract 3. So this is y equals negative 5x plus 7. So what does this equation represent? It's the equation of the line that passes through the given point and is perpendicular to the given line. And you notice that this one has slope 1/5, and this one has slope negative 5. Do you think we need another example like this one? Yes? Okay, so let's do another. Okay, so on the same page, 279. Let's try number 9. We are given negative 2 comma 2, but this time parallel. That's a symbol for parallel to the line whose equation is 2x minus 3y minus 7 equals 0. Okay, again, I'm not graphing accurately anything. I'm just giving you the idea. So we have a line whose equation is unknown. We do know two things about it. One piece of information is here, that it passes through this point. And another piece of information is that it's parallel to this line. 2x minus 3y minus 7 equals 0. Is this the y-intercept? No. So then we have, again, we are forced to use this. Negative 2 and positive 2. The question is, if I manage to determine the slope somehow, I'm done. So is there a way of determining the slope? Exactly. Thank you very much. Awesome. So this time was not the given equation. It was not as nice and neat and organized like this one, in which I was able to find the slope right away. It's not. It's kind of all over the place. But I will be able to solve for y, and if I solve for y, I will determine the slope. No question about it. Let me just see where I'm with time. Oh, I'm still okay. Good. So then 2x minus 3y minus 7 equals 0. Perfect. How do I solve this equation for y? What is the first step? Very good. You can teach this class. Thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you. Good. So if the slope is m2, which is what? No x, just a slope. Very good. Then what is the slope of the unknown line that we are trying to find? Do you all agree with 2/3? Because two lines that are parallel must have the same slope. Awesome. So this is also 2/3, and the problem is almost solved, right? All I have to do is distribute 2/3 and clean it up. Any questions for me before we do that? Any questions? Okay. So let's do just that. So y minus 2 equals 2/3. X minus negative 2 is x plus 2. Okay. I need to solve for y. I will distribute 2/3 and then bring a positive 2 to the other side. When I move a term from one side to the other, I only change its sign. Can anyone give us the least common denominator? Yes, please.
I'm sorry, keep going.
I'm sorry?
I was just going to ask, what exactly is the name for this formula again that we're using currently? Right
Point
now?
slope form.
Point slope. Is that what we just used for the perpendicular?
Yes. Point slope. There are only two formulas, two equations. One is the slope intercept form, and the other one point slope form when I'm not given the y-intercept. When I'm given the y-intercept, I will not waste my time with this. Although this one works for any point, including the y-intercept. But if I'm given the y-intercept, I will use the first one. If I'm not given the y-intercept, I have no choice. Can anyone give us the least common denominator of these two? I just didn't hear. This vent makes a noise right here in my ear. Yes, of course. It's the only one, right? Good. So what is the adjustment for the top? Of course. So 4 plus 6 is 10. This is the equation of the line passing through the point negative 2 comma 2 and parallel to the given line 2x minus 3y minus 7 equals 0. One last item here is about the average rate of change. Average rate of change. For a function between 2 points. So let's suppose we have this function. This is f of x. And let's suppose I have a point here and a point here. I'm going to call this A and this B. And now you're going to please help me with the coordinates. Let's say this is x1. What will this be? Also, yes, correct. Absolutely true. But there is another way of writing y1. Excellent. Yes, f of course. Perfect. So now this is x2. What will this be? Very good. Perfect. And now I draw this line segment between A and B. That is the slope of AB, which is the average rate of change between x1 and x2. Can anyone give us the slope of that line, which is also the average rate of change? Awesome. Thank you. Indeed, f of x2 minus, of course, divided by x2 minus 1. Same thing, the slope of that line segment. Perfect. So let's look at the problem like 15 on page 279. 15 on 279.